this is Patrick with Underdog Dueling. I am here with Solo YUGIOH to give you my first of 3 deck profiles for what I'm calling God Mode. I have 3 Egyptian God decks that I've played at locals for the past few weeks, and we are starting off with the man, the myth, the legend, and Yugi's favorite, Slifer the Sky Dragon, specifically mixed with the Poker Knights, or face cards, depending on how you want to call them. Let's go and get started, and if you want to see more, like and subscribe to Solo YUGIOH, and you can follow me at Underdog Dueling here on YouTube or Soren's Lair on Twitter. Starting off, we are playing 3 copies of Slifer the Sky Dragon. Like with all God cards, he requires 3 tributes to normal summon. His normal summon cannot be negated, and cards and effects cannot be activated, so once he's on the field, it completely starts. He gains 1,000 attack and defense for each card in your hand, and if a monster is normal or special summoned to your opponent's field in attack mode, that monster will lose 2,000 attack, and if it's reduced to 0, destroy it. Basically, if you have a way to try and keep your opponent from summoning in defense, in which there's a couple of alternative plays that you can do, this is just a really good way to ensure that your opponent won't be able to destroy you completely outright. Moving on, we're going to be starting off with the Poker Knights themselves. I run 3 Queen's Knight, 2 King's Knight, 3 King's Knight, and 2 Jack's Knight. So, Queen's Knight is just a vanilla beater. King's Knight, basically, whenever it's normal summoned, allows you to special summon a Jack's Knight straight from the deck. This is kind of meant to help you bridge the gap to be able to summon out Slifer as soon as possible, or really any other God card, because you can be a little bit interchangeable with these cards. And then we have 3 copies of their newest support, YUGI'S Knight, who is a level 5 light warrior, similar to Jack's Knight, which pairs really well with rank 5 Xyz. This allows you to send King's Knight, Queen's Knight, or Jack's Knight from your deck to the grave, special summon this, and its name becomes that monster. And then also, during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard, you can target another light warrior in your grave, shuffle into the deck, and add this card to your hand. A lot of the best support in this deck all have this shared second effect, so that way you can recur your resources kind of as much as possible to ensure that you don't run out of cards. Though you still gotta be careful because your graveyard will fill up fast if you are not careful. For them playing just 1 copy of Imperial Bower, unfortunately Imperial Bower I only have 1 copy of. I did have 2, but I ended up trading one of them away, and it was a collector's rare, which is unfortunate, but you know what you're gonna do. Basically, if you control no other monsters, you can trip this card to take any combination of King, Queen, or Jack's Knight, and either add them to the hand or special summon each monster. If you're looking for just a quick rank 4 Xyz or even a Link summon, Imperial Bower is a really good way to do so. I would run, personally, 2 to 3 copies of this card if you can get a hold of them, which is what I'm hoping to do in the future. And then lastly, for the Arcana Knight monsters, I run 1 copy of Arcana Triumph Joker. If it's in your hand or grave, you can send King's Knight, Queen's Knight, and Jack's Knight from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard to special summon this card. It gains 500 times the number of cards in both players' hands, and then you can discard a card to destroy all face-up cards your opponent controls with the same type, monster, spell, or trap. So, if your opponent's playing a back row heavy deck and they can't activate all their cards in response just yet, you can just simply discard a card, blow up their field. They got a board full of monsters, blow them up as well. So, a multitude of ways to try and get as many monsters on the field as possible. Next, we're going to go into my one-of that I run with the deck because we do have level 5s. That is Hayate the Earth Star. If only your opponent controls a monster, or if you control a light monster, it can be normal summoned without tributing, and allows you to special summon a level 5 light warrior straight from your hand, something like our copy of Jack's Knight. And then once per turn, when a warrior monster is targeted for attack, you can make this card lose 500 attack and negate the attack. We mostly just use him as a one-of because we don't really want to see him in our opening hand right away. He mostly does... He's good if you can use him, then it's really good to kind of have him for setup. Otherwise, you can just go into rank 5 Xyz, which we do run a couple of in the deck. Moving on to the spells, I'm running 3 copies of Joker Straight, kind of the linchpin of the entire strategy, alongside YUGI'S Knight, as well as a trap card, 3 of a card called YUGI'S Wild. So the reason I'm pairing these 2 together is because these are kind of your lifelines for the deck. Joker's Straight allows you to discard a card and you can special summon Queen's Knight, add King's Knight or Jack's Knight, and then immediately normal summon a monster. However, you are locked into Light Warriors from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, and then similarly to Joker's Knight, both Joker's Straight and Joker's Wild can shuffle back a Light Warrior from the grave into the deck to add it back to the hand. Conversely, Joker's Wild, basically during the main or battle phase, can send a spell or trap that lists all of the Poker Knights in its card text, and its effect becomes that effect when activated. This is really good to where if you're having trouble trying to get your resources on board, if you don't draw into your copy of Joker Straight, this effectively functions as copies 4, 5, and 6. Being able to copy its effect, so that way you can go ahead and get its effect. And now it does, because this effect happens all at once with discarding a card, you do still have to have a card in hand to activate it. But effectively, when you activate Joker Straight, what you want to do is you go and special summon Queen's Knight, add King's Knight, immediately normal summon King's Knight, who will then special summon Jack's Knight. This will basically ensure that you're able to get into either you can go into a rank 3, a rank 4, and have a 5-star on board, or be able to get into our copy of our glorious Slifer, the executive producer, for those that watch the Abridged series. And then for general Slifer support, I run 2 copies of Thunderspeed Summon. Basically, it allows you to immediately normal summon a level 10 monster, but if you control all 3 face cards, you can add a level 10 non-dark monster with question mark attack from your deck to your hand, and then immediately normal summon a level 10 monster. You can use this to search a multitude of cards. You can use this to go and search your copy of Slifer, or if you are playing Winged Dragon of Ra with it, or even Sphere Mode, this allows you to search that as well. It's basically a good way, once you get all your cards on board with Joker Straight, you immediately have a God card. And then we have 2 copies, we'll get to that in a minute, of Thunder Force Attack, Slifer's archetypal, or rather his attack spell. So all of the God supports, their cards and effects cannot be negated, and if you control a monster whose original name is Slifer, you destroy as many face-up monsters your opponent controls as possible. Then if you activate it during your main phase, you get to draw cards equal to the number of monsters destroyed, but you can only attack with 1 monster per turn. So if your opponent has a full board and you can get Slifer out on the field, Thunder Force Attack will destroy everything and it can't be negated. And you could potentially go +6 and draw up to 6 cards, giving Slifer at minimum 6,000 attack. At which point, if your opponent has an empty board, then they're going to be in for a world of hurt. And then finally, I go and have 3 copies of Soul Crossing. It is a quick play spell where during the main phase, you can tribute summon a Divine Beast monster, but you can tribute monsters your opponent controls even though you don't control them. But if you use that effect and you tribute your opponent's monsters, until the end of the next turn after it resolves, you can only activate 1 card or effect per turn, not counting the effects of Divine Beast monsters. Effectively, if you can tribute all 3 of your opponent's monsters, it clears their board and it goes past a lot of immunities because it tributes as part of a tribute summon. And you use this to try and go into your God as much as possible, and ensures that their board is cleared, and even though you can only activate 1 more card or effect, usually doesn't happen too often, because a lot of times you usually have what you need to finish out the game. We'll kind of just do that right there. And then now for the rest of our spells, I run 1 face card fusion, which is kind of the archetypal fusion. Allows you to fusion a Light Warrior from your extra deck using monsters from hand or field, but if you control King, Queen, or Jack, you can use a monster from your deck as fusion material instead. So this includes even cards like Hayate the Earth Star, because we do have a fusion monster right here that I'll go into very shortly. And also gets into one of our other fusions. We then play 1 copy of Double or Nothing, which can double the attack of a monster that had its effects negated and give it a 2nd attack. Harpy's Feather Duster, which destroys all spell and traps. 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone, which allows you to pay 1,000 life points, target a spell or trap on the field, and banish it. And then for our trap cards, I am running 2 copies of Court of Cards. If you control no monsters or only control King's Knight, Queen's Knight, Jack's Knight, you can special summon 1 of those cards from your hand or your graveyard. And then you can also banish 1 each of King, Queen, or Jack to draw the same number of cards that you banished. However, you can only use 1 effect per turn and only once that turn. This is just kind of a good way to recoup your resources. If you have Slifer on the board and Knights in the grave, you can draw up to 3 cards and try and give Slifer that extra boost to be able to end the game. And then we have 1 Revived Sky God. Similarly to Thunder Force attack, it can't be negated. Allows you to special summon a Slifer the Sky Dragon from your graveyard, then each player draws until they have 6 cards in the hand. And you can banish this card from the graveyard to place a Monster Reborn from your deck or graveyard on top of the deck, and then if a Divine Beast is in the grave, you draw a card. Nice, short, sweet, to the point, and gets Slifer back on the field for 1 whole turn, hopefully to close out the games. Then finally, we have 2 copies of Final Attack Orders. As long as this remains up on the field, all monsters on the field that are changed to attack position, and their battle positions cannot be changed. Because Slifer has an attack reduction, and because this is a blanket continuous effect, the moment your opponent switches into summons a monster into defense, it's automatically switched into attack mode before Slifer's 2k debuff takes into effect, basically to ensure that your opponent's monsters will always be weakened. And then finally, our hand traps running 3 Droll and Lockbird to be able to stop your opponent after they add cards from deck to hand, preventing them from doing so for the rest of the turn. And then 3 Infinite Impermanence to negate monster effects, and if it was set, it can negate all spell and trap effects in the same column as it. And next, we'll just go ahead and quickly go through our extra deck. I run 1 Raijin the Breakbolt Star, which requires a level 5 Light Warrior and an Earth Warrior monster, like Hayate. It has piercing battle damage. If it battles a monster without a level, any battle damage it inflicts to your opponent is doubled. And then during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target 2 level 7 or lower warrior monsters in your grave and special summon them. This can get back your Hayate and a copy of Jack's Knight or Joker's Knight for a rank 5, or King or Queen to go into a rank 4. We then have Arcana Knight Joker, which requires all 3 as material. Once per turn, when a spell or trap or monster effect is activated that targets Joker, you can discard a card of the same type and negate the effect, but it doesn't destroy it. We then play a Utopia package, number 39 Utopia, Utopia Prime, Utopia Double, and Utopia the Lightning. Utopia can detach a material to negate an attack that is declared, and if this card has no materials, it is destroyed. Utopia Prime can exceed summon itself using a Utopia. You can, if your opponents are 3,000 or life points are 3,000 or higher, you can detach up to 3 materials and pay life points so that you have 10 left. Destroy as many special summon monsters your opponent controls as possible, banish them, and then burn them for 300. So a good way to try and get some last minute burn damage in. We have Utopia Double, which has the ability to search out our double or nothing, and then immediately go into another Utopia monster that has double its attack. And effectively, the goal is to use Utopia's effect to negate its own attack, activate double or nothing, and then the attack is doubled even further, so you are swinging in for over 10,000 points of damage. However, in the event that that goes through, we do have Utopia the Lightning, which can detach 2 materials to gain 5,000 attack. Then for more generic stuff, I run 1 Time Thief Redoer, which can attack the top card of your opponent's deck to it during each standby phase. Baguska, the Terribly Tired Tapir, who changes all monsters to defense position and negates their effects. 1 Abyss Dweller to lock your opponent out of their graveyard. 1 Constellar Pleiades, which can detach a material to return a target a card on the field and return to the hand. 1 Artifact Durandal, to be able to change the effect of destroying 1 spell or trap your opponent controls, spell or trap being us, and then it can detach a material, and each player with their hand will shuffle their hand into the deck and draw the same number of cards. And then we have 1 copy of Heat of the Fire Charmer as our link monster if we're running Ash Blossom in the deck to be able to steal an opponent's fire monster from the grave. 1 Nightmare Unicorn, which can discard a card to spin a monster back into the deck. 1 Arcana Extra Joker, which does the same thing as Arcana Knight Joker, who can discard the same type of card to negate a card effect that targets it or a monster it points to. And then when destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a level 4 warrior normal monster from your deck and add a warrior monster from deck to hand. Basically use this to grab Queen's Knight from your deck, and then normal summon grab King's Knight for the following turn. And then 1 Lena the Light Charmer, just so that you can have a searcher of a light monster, but also be able to special summon a light monster from your opponent's graveyard. And that is all for the profile for you guys. I really hope you enjoyed. This deck still needs a little bit of tweaking, but this was kind of my current build that I played at locals. So I hope you look forward to more. Next up, we are going to be doing the Obelisk the Tormentor deck profile. So I hope you look forward to all of that. And until next time, catch you later.